Welcome back to Next Chapter, planning your retirement story. And who better to plan it with than Steven Sabo, financial advisor at Executive Financial Group and the host of this podcast here. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull. And Steven, before we get into the topic du jour, and that is going to be talking about the election and how people plan around it, or maybe shouldn't make such brash moves around it.
Sure.
Let's just get to know you a little bit better. We're based out of, you and your family with your firm at Executive Financial Group, are based out of the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. And by the way, folks, you can meet Steven and Alexandra and the team at mynextchapterliving.com. But Steven, you're based out of Pittsburgh there. Mm-hmm. Football season's underway. So are we planning any Steelers games coming up as the weather gets cooler?
Yeah, you know what I am. I have a couple buddies. We're spread out all over the place, one down in Raleigh and a couple here in PA, but just in different areas. And we like to get together, and we're thinking about one maybe closer to the wintertime, maybe in December. So, but yeah, man, I mean, it looks like we finally have a quarterback back after we lost Ben Roethlisberger. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to get too cocky or ahead of myself, but the start of this season anyway has been pretty good. So I'm excited.
And you're talking about Justin Fields since Russell Wilson was hurt, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
For a minute anyway, former Georgia Bulldog here. I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and hey, we've got ourselves a quarterback now, Kirk Cousins, and a backup that was a first-round draft pick. A real fun topic to discuss here. Michael Penix Jr., why a backup was taken in the first round. But hey, whatever. So right after one of the largest free agent signings ever in NFL history. So yeah, hey, big financial moves talked about there with signing Kirk Cousins or other big-time quarterbacks. And sports is so emotional, right? And that's why when you listen to sports talk radio, if you listen to podcasts, read articles or blogs, go to social media, people freak out. The Steelers get one loss. The Falcons go, oh, it's over, man. Fire the coach. Change the play call. You should run the ball more often. Whatever, right?
Yep.
Well, I believe that in the last 20 years, and who cares what I believe, but I believe in the last 20 years, that politics has become more like a sport in the United States. And that's not against one party or another. Right. Instead of, oh, we're electing the people that govern us, it becomes, my team, their team. And then you start freaking out when your team or their team does certain things, and you even get freaked out at your own team, just like sports fans do. And I've noticed as I've talked to Steven, to you more often and to people like you, there are a lot of people that come to you all concerned about the election. So what are some of your clients that come to Executive Financial Group coming in and saying, and how are you assuaging, SAT word, their fears?
Yeah. So, it is funny. I mean, I think you're totally correct about that. Over the last however many years, 20 years, whatever it's been, that people definitely have been a lot more emotional around politics and elections and things like that. And we've really seen it over these last couple of election cycles. Unfortunately, like you said, you wish you would focus more on policy, what's going to help the country as a whole. I don't care what side you choose. It's none of my business, really. I'm here as a financial advisor to say, hey, look, here's the facts, here's this, here's that, here's how things are going to be affected for you. How can we work within what we have? You don't know who's going to get elected. You don't know what's going to go on. So we want to make sure that no matter who is in the office, that you're going to be okay, that you have a plan that works for you, and that you have a plan that, hey, the ups and downs are going to come. So we need to make sure that we're on top of that. And so, it's funny. We really try not to get into it too much with our clients. I want them to feel comfortable telling me that they believe in this person or they believe in that person. And we'll have conversations about, what people or what candidates have said they're going to do, or, what traditionally one side has voted towards another. So, but we don't want to get into the weeds with it. We don't, hey, your opinion is your opinion. I like people no matter what. It doesn't matter. You could still be my friend and we disagree on something. So, we just want to, people are very emotional around it, and we just want to make sure that, they aren't making knee-jerk decisions.
Well, and I'm sure it'll be easy to do that, to think one candidate does this, I'm pulling all my money and, burying it under the house or something like that, where I'm pretty sure burying it under the mattress or house has, I think anyway, despite the Fed rate cuts, a 0% interest. Okay. So I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So what's an approach? What do you tell people about their finances or the markets as we go through an election season, because I know that if I've learned one thing through talking to people like you, Steven, it's that the market gravitates toward stability.
Right.
So what are we dealing with here? We're recording in September. You may be hearing this after November, after it's already decided. What does the market do in the lead up to an election, following an election, and then as somebody else takes office, including the houses of Congress, not just the president?
Sure. Yeah. You can look back at so many different historical data points that show this and that. And, typically what I've seen anyway in a run up to election is, there can be a little bit of volatility in what's going on. Especially in the months of August, September, we've seen that in the past, that they can be a little bit volatile, especially right during an election. But then we'll see after that, those last couple of months kind of filter out until you get into the next administration. And it might be fine for a year into that next administration before anything happens. And so, we want to focus on, let's wait and see what happens. Let's not make any sort of decisions right now based on the fear that's happening in the news cycles. Right? You're going to have some downtimes, you're going to have up times. And it really just depends on who you are as a person, what you can stomach, and, what your plan allows for you. But we've seen a whole range of different things happening, and it really just depends on there's so much. I mean, the media drives a lot of it. And I think that they push a lot of fear into people, and it creates waves and it creates people to do stuff. But it really just depends there.
I remember watching, years ago, one of my favorite shows, and I'm just a tad bit older than you, Stephen, but it was The West Wing. It was in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And they talked about, and again, this is a TV show. It's not a documentary. It's not C-SPAN. All right. But in The West Wing, they talked about it. There's a governor in the Bartlett administration, and that was a kind of a center of left administration, Democrat administration. But regardless of that, they talked about you really, as president, you only have the first 2 years, and then or the first year and a half, and then it comes up to the first election season, which is the midterms. Right. And then after that, you start running for reelection again. And so it's almost like when you talked about that first year and a half in office, so you have to build up to getting stuff done. And then after about a year and a half, there's sort of working up to the midterms and that kind of thing. And so if somebody's looking at it, they're retiring at 65 or something, and they're planning to live maybe 30 years after, when you start looking at your entire retirement in little windows of a year and a half, that's probably not as advisable, I would think, Stephen, when you're making a 25, 30-year strategy.
Yeah, no, that's certainly not a thing that we want to do. This is a long-term process. Like you said, it might be 20, 30 years or longer in retirement. And so you can't base it off of just what's going to happen in 1.5 or 2 years. You want to build in flexibility into a plan to make sure that you can adjust with the times. We're going to switch presidents in 20 or 40 years. You're going to have different administrations, different things are going to be happening in there. Taxes could go up, they could come down. And you want to make sure that there's enough flexibility in your plan that no matter who's in there, no matter what type of administration is in there, that, hey, you're protected. You're making sure you're getting the growth. If it's growing, you're making sure you're protecting on the downside. What's happening with taxes? All right, let's sit back down and rework a tax strategy based on what's happening now in this administration. Maybe taxes have gone up. So we want to say, all right, where can we adjust in your plan to help you bring down those taxes? Or we might say, all right, taxes are in a favorable position. How can we take advantage of it?
And if somebody's already established contact with you, they've gone to mynextchapterliving.com and you've already begun a plan. Let's say somebody in the last 5 years has begun a plan with you. How often are you checking in with them, or you recommend they check in with you to make these? Because the adjustments you're making are not 180 degrees, I would presume anyway. Yeah. So how often are we doing these little checkups and moving the needle a little bit this way or that way, depending on how laws change?
Yeah, we like to, at the very minimum, we want to meet with somebody once a year. But more often than not, we're talking to our clients throughout the year. Hey, we're getting emails, we're getting calls, they have questions. We say, hey, what's going on with you? Is there anything in your life? Is there anything? Or, coming up with the election, we say, here are some things that could happen. And we, based on the plan that you have right now, we might want to adjust slightly for, what's going to be upcoming. And so it just depends on the client too. Some people, they don't watch the news. They don't care what's happening politically. And they might call us, they might never call us. We have other people that have been calling frequently in this time because they're worried about what's going to happen or who's going to get in or what, if this person gets in, this is going to happen. And so, we like to keep in contact with our clients and as much as they like to, right? We want to reach out and say, hey, this is what we see coming up for you, and this is how we think you should adjust. But also, we want them to call us with questions and say, I've been seeing all this stuff on TV, Stephen, and I don't know what to think. What if this person wins? What are we going to do? And, we're here to say, step back, take a deep breath. Everything's going to be all right. Let's go through your plan again. Let's work through this. Let's work through different scenarios that could or could not happen. And we'll say, all right, here's how we'll address this thing. Here's how we're going to address this little bit and take it from there. So we want to meet with people, but, some people say, hey, I'm not paying attention to this, so I don't really care.
For those that are new to the game, and help me out, because just like every person is different, every financial advisor and every place is different. At Executive Financial Group, when somebody commits and they trust you with whatever their plan is, all these little meetings are included in that suite, right? It's not like you're worried about when you go to the doctor, you might have a co-payment and all this stuff. Oh crap, I gotta dig in here. And you and your team are gonna, once you're in, right?
That's right. Yeah. There's no charge for picking up the phone and calling us or writing me an email or something like that. Or if I have to send a letter off or something like that. No, we're not going to be, beating down and nickel and diming everybody for things like that. Once we establish a plan for you, we're going to work through that plan until you're no longer our client anymore. And so, we encourage our clients to call us. We encourage our clients to pick up the phone, write us an email, come meet with us. We don't want people to be afraid of, I'm not going to pick on attorneys. My brother-in-law is an attorney. He's a great attorney. But normally people come into us and they say, how's this work? We don't want to be.
That's an even better example than the doctor one I said, because attorneys is billable hours. So the financial advisor in your case at Executive Financial Group are not doing billable hours.
No, sir. No, we're not billing anybody for any of that stuff. Yeah. I mean, we're creating a plan. We're going to be compensated. We're going to tell you how we're going to be compensated through the plan, and we're going to work with you through it. There are certain things here and there that there may be a cost. Maybe it isn't through us. Maybe you're working with an attorney for legal documents. Well, there's a cost to that, but it's not going to be coming to us. Or if we had to go above and beyond what we did, then we would discuss that and say, hey, here's what is going to be into it for us. And here's how much we would have to charge to do something like that. And then let them make the decision for there. But we're never going to spring anything on you and say, hey, look, you picked up the phone and you spent a half an hour on the phone with me, and here's a bill for that.
Transparency, fiduciary, and much of what you talked about is included. That's a really good thing to remember there as you're planning retirement. We're trying to avoid the trap doors here, so to speak. So get with Stephen Sabo. His family's been in business for this a long time at Executive Financial Group, and the Keystone State there in the southern part of Pennsylvania, mynextchapterliving.com. And Stephen, once again, about the election, people just need to calm down, right?
That's it. Yeah. Turn the news off, quit listening, and, take a look around you. Most people are good people. You shouldn't hate somebody just because the news tells you to, or because they might be on the other side than you are, or anything like that. Take a deep breath, step back, come and see me, pick up the phone. Let's talk about it. Let's see how something might affect you, and then go from there. But don't make any decisions that you're going to regret later.
You've already helped bring a little zen to me right now here in just these few minutes here on the Next Chapter Planning Your Retirement Story podcast. Stephen, thank you for spending time with us. And everybody, be sure, again, not only do you want to set up an appointment with Stephen and his team at Executive Financial Group at mynextchapterliving.com, but past podcast episodes are there as well. Be sure to tell your people about it, the ones you care about, even the ones you don't care about. Stephen just told you they're good people. If you think they need some retirement strategies there, especially if they're all amped up about the election, be sure and tell them about this. So everybody, thank you so much for listening again to Next Chapter, Planning Your Retirement Story, and we'll have another episode coming your way very soon.
Thanks, Doug.
The opinions expressed by Steven Sabo and guests on this podcast are their own and do not reflect the opinions of this podcast station. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Past performance cannot be used as an indicator to determine future results. Any strategies mentioned may not be suitable for everyone. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. Before acting on any information mentioned, please consult with a qualified tax or investment advisor to determine if it is suitable for your specific situation. This program is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to subject covered. Investment advisory services offered through Virtue Capital Management, LLC, VCM, a registered investment advisor. VCM and Executive Financial Group are independent of each other. Pennsylvania Insurance License number 670429. Any guarantees mentioned are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract. Steven Sabo and/or Executive Financial Group are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.